this is backed extensively by brain research, and actually scientists right now are working on having it on our watches. So like when our watches tell us, right, stand up, you've been sitting down for too long, or tells us our heart rate, eventually the watches that we can wear on our wrist, body sensors, will be available to tell us which nervous system state we're in. So eventually this technology will be able to say, okay, you're in a state of fight or freeze, which is just incredible. So what started off as kind of recognising human behaviour has now been backed by brain science. And we know if we say no so much, they're going to do it anyway. So give them it, let them have it. At least if you kind of can be there safely behind them, advocating it, they're even safer because they know that you're not saying no behind it. Acknowledge that your role is changing. Be there behind, cheerleading the whole way, but they are going to kind of make a move away from you. Connect with them as best as you can. Slow down. The moment we kind of see our young people in fight or flight, in stress, slow down and...
It's slow and low, so slow your speech down and bring your tone down. Because when our children get anxious, we get anxious and we raise our voices and we raise our pitch, and all we're doing is feeding into that. We're not teaching them how to regulate. So by slowing our speech down and just lowering the tone, it does work.
Absolutely, and when we start to recognise our young people in those nervous system states, kind of red, blue, the moment we spot it, the first thing that we need to do is get ourselves calm, because we're no good to anybody if we're also stressy, if we're also kind of got our own stuff going on.
And it is hard, it's hard.
Oh God.
I'm still
100%.
learning from mother to grandmother. I'm still learning, and it's going to be a journey that is lifelong. It'll end when I die, but it's one of those journeys. There is no books, there is no manuals. We have to just think about it and kind of work on it.
And there's no kind of greater perceived threat as a parent of when your young person is sad or upset or stressed. We immediately take that on. So it's kind of also about getting ourselves in a place where we kind of can park our own stuff to then not be in our own state of stress because our young people are stressed. So body budget is a bit like what I was saying about earlier, where our brain is able to track safety. It's also tracking lots of other things. So if we think of it like an accountant, our body tracks, have we had enough water? Have we had enough salt? Have we had enough vitamins? But also, because our brain and body aren't separate, it's one thing, our brain is also kind of processing good things and bad things. And Lisa Feldman Barrett describes these as withdrawals and deposits. So we can use this helpfully to kind of think about our young people's well-being and thinking about how many deposits have they had, how many withdrawals have they had. So if they've woken up, they've had an argument with mum, they've then had to stand at a rainy bus stop, they get there, oh, it's a supply teacher for maths, they got a bad result in English. All of these are withdrawals. And we have to think about how can we up the deposits. If you're getting withdrawal, and then something hard happens, that's where we have no resilience. If we've got loads of good deposits, we've done brilliant teamwork at a sporting event, we've had a lovely weekend where mum's let us lay until 12:30, then I got left alone to play Xbox. Then if we get that lovely amount of deposits, nice social time, great night's sleep, exercise, healthy meals, we come from a better place. I know that when I've had a good night's sleep, when I'm feeling great about work, when all these things are in, when something hard happens, when my toddler has a meltdown, I'm like, cool, I've got this. If I've had a shocking night's sleep, I haven't had time for breakfast and I'm late, and then my toddler has a meltdown, I don't have anything left because I've got nothing in my reserves. So deposits and withdrawals can be really helpful when you're thinking about times of stress. Do I need to up the deposits? This all starts with our thoughts. This starts with, if I don't have the right shoes, my friends won't like me. This starts with, if I get that bad grade, I'm never going to get to uni. All these thoughts, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm stupid, all these thoughts. The thought then creates an emotion. Shame, sadness, regret, depression. Then we have the behaviour. So it keeps going round in that cycle or that cycle. The behaviour then might be the feeling of nausea, might be that when you speak to them they then lose their temper. It might be that they're irritable, stressed, snappy. So this is how we kind of have those linked things. But the key thing is our thoughts. A lot of the time is, you'll say, well, you keep coming back and you keep saying you're not good enough. And actually it's that thought that drives this anxiety. It's that worry, it's that kind of perpetuating feeling that actually when we start to say, well, no, I am good enough, and we start to collect reasonable data to kind of go against all those anxiety inducing thoughts. So this is a 10-step process that can help. Sometimes when I work with parents, I say, write it down. Write down this and then go and have a best attempt at doing all these steps. And the more you kind of get into the habit, the more that actually you can find is a really nice way of communicating. I've used this to write an email when I've had a difficult thing to kind of have a conversation with. And I've used this to have tricky conversations or just conversations in general. So first things first, connect to yourself and connect to them. Am I good? Am I calm? Am I coming from a place where I'm okay to take on this challenge? And next, you simply just say, consent. You ask, are you in a good place for us to have a chat about this morning? Are you in a good place for us to have a chat about whatever is coming up for you? And just kind of test the water and ask if they're happy to talk to you. Next, you set really clearly what your intention is. And you say to them, I'd really like to work out a better way of having our mornings. I'd like to work out a calmer routine, and I want to understand your experience of the morning too. So you're kind of saying to them really clearly what you want to get out of the conversation. Next, you can kind of put in a nice affirmation. I really appreciate that you're getting your bags ready. I really appreciate that your books are all packed the night before. Thanks so much for that. I appreciate you working with me on this, whatever kind of appreciation that you can give. And next, you're going to state your concern. So you can say, I'm nervous about how late we've been recently. It's really, really stressful in the morning. I'm finding I'm snappy. And this is what I'm a bit worried about at the moment. Don't have to go too far, don't have to over dramatise. You don't have to put it all on them, but just simply say, I'm just a bit worried about how this is going. Take responsibility for it. Our teenagers aren't our caretakers, they aren't responsible for our emotions. We are, as the parents, as the adults in the relationship. But you can say, I'm sorry for how I responded this morning. I'm sorry for not bringing this up sooner. And then share your feelings. So, can I share what I need? I need for the mornings to be calm. I need for us to get out the door on time. I need for you to work with me on this, whatever that kind of need and feelings are. And then you start to ask them, what about you? So I imagine for you it's quite stressful in the morning when we're always late. I imagine for you that this isn't nice, that I keep on losing my temper because I'm feeling stressed in the morning. Can you share with me what it's like for you? So you're gleaning from them what's going on for them. Do you know, I just can't get out of bed first thing. I'm really struggling with X, Y, and Z. I can never be bothered to pack my bag on an evening. You can glean even more information from them by kind of empathizing. How are you feeling right now? And then you kind of make a request with them. Would you be willing to? Would you be willing to wake up 15 minutes earlier? Would your teenagers like that? Would you be willing to wake up on your first alarm? Would you be willing to get everything ready at night? I know this is like horrible territory for teens, but it's about kind of having those conversations and saying, okay, breakfast in the car, like what can we be doing together? Your problem solving and saying clearly, can we move this? Can we do this as the next plan? You've already got their feelings, you've had this lovely clear communication with them. And then lastly, you're showing that appreciation and you're saying, thanks so much for working with me on this, I really appreciate your willingness, I really appreciate your cooperation. But it's a nice format for having tricky conversations. It's something to kind of bear in mind, even if you think to yourself, okay, I did 3 of the 10, can be more efficient than having a big old whinge, having a moan, and both of you walk away, you think, oh, I feel better, they think, oh, I feel right, I feel loads worse now, mum's just had a massive moan at me. But also, if we communicate to our teens like this, that's how they communicate. When they have partners, when they grow up and have professional relationships. So if we can model to our young people how to communicate, we're going to be giving them such amazing skills moving forwards. Sometimes we need to seek help, ask somebody, make that phone call, go to social events, reminisce, vent. We need other people to kind of deal with these things. Spiritual, it's a big factor for a lot of families, attending religious events, speaking to religious leaders, reflecting on who you are and leaning on faith in times of stress can be another way of having a lovely coping skill. And distraction. So we it feels like we shouldn't distract ourselves. We should deal with the problem at hand and all of this. But actually, sometimes we need a bit of this too. We can't be constantly acting, problem solving, constantly emotionally kind of reacting. We have to sometimes just say, oh, I need 20 minutes of Downton Abbey, you know? Like sometimes we just need a bit of a distraction. So exercise, reading, listening to music, whatever that might be, sometimes you just need time off, switch off time. So what might that look like for your teens? Do they have time, or are they just one homework to the next homework to the next? Do they have that time for distraction? Because it's a really lovely thing too. Get onto their level, see them, share them, and be present. It can be so easy to kind of get swept up into things, but really giving somebody your presence can feel so good, can feel really, really nice. So then the other thing that can stop us being a good listener is our own thoughts. So while they're telling us things, we're thinking, oh, get on with it. Oh, you're being so emotional again. You hear that kind of, those things come out, and our head is kind of saying, oh, why are you so loud? Oh, that's a bit exaggerating. Oh, yeah, really. And our brain kind of goes into those deep conditioned thoughts, and before we know it, we're kind of judging them and we're putting labels, and we're kind of, but actually we're not helping and we're not connecting, we're not truly listening if our brain's going off on that kind of tangent. Witness them as they are and just be okay with that and accept that. Don't interrupt. It's really easy to then think, no, my adult agenda, my thoughts, my da-da-da. Well, you can't be like that and you can't think like that, da-da-da-da-da. And we all of a sudden try and take over and put our own stuff. Just listen, just don't interrupt. Let them say their thing, even if they're the wrongest that they've ever been. Just listen, take it in. And also, the more that they tell us, the more that they open up, they're all amazing nuggets of information that empower us to help them, to make a change, to do something with, because otherwise they're living this secret life that we know nothing about. Having those bits of information can be so, so helpful as to how we can help them. We can learn so, so much about them. And lastly, don't compare. Comparing, nothing good really ever comes from comparing our children, comparing ourselves. It's rarely helpful. It's really kind of, but being able to kind of accept them as their own unique person, as their kind of own, in their own path or in their own place in this kind of journey, and just listen actively. It's really an exhausting habit when we start to compare and when we start to kind of think, well, where's this going to lead them in 30 years' time? Just wasted energy, wasted fears, wasted threats. If we can listen without doing these things, we're going to be such a better listener. Also, if we're modelling good listening, we're going to bring up young people that become adults that listen really well. And they'll become great partners, they'll become great friends, they'll become great adults because they're really great at listening because we taught them how.